Alright, so this is going to be probably the last review of any of the different paints in the series. I might do a recap or answer specific questions after I'm done. But what I'm looking at here is all the metallics. So this is going to be, so we have layer metallics, we have base metallics, and we have dry compound metallics. So let's try to split these out and make some sense of this. So we have base, we have base, we have base, and base. So there's 4 bases, I believe, and there should be, it looks like I have 7 layers, assuming I haven't missed anything, and I've got 2 dries. So for base, we have lead Belcher, which is your bolt gun metal. That's going to be your majority of your metal things. Looks like a steel. It's going to be kind of a darkened steel, so that makes sense. You have to have that. Warp lock bronze, that's your tin bits equivalent, and that's absolutely critical if you're doing sort of brassy colors. Should give that a shake up. And it's also usually a good base for golds, so that's that. And then we have this gold base, so maybe that's our base for gold instead. So there's that. I think it needs a better shake. There we go, that's much better. So metallics in other ranges can be quite difficult. Okay, and this is a screen bell, so that's probably a bronze? I don't know. It's like a reddish, oh wow. That needs a good shake. Okay, so metallics, if you haven't learned it already, you got to shake them up well to make sure you have your pigments, because they tend to fall out. That's a really nice reddish pigment. I like that, actually. I don't know what I'm going to combine that with. Okay, so those are our bases. Then we have a gold layer. We have another gold layer. We have a bronze. So let's see if we can figure out. So bronze probably goes there. We have a dry. There's a steel, Runefang steel. Another dry. Brass scorpion. I think that looks like a reddish one, so it's probably going to go with that. And this copper, that might be, yeah, that's probably the highlight there. And this brass, bronze. So we have some options here. We have our brass and bronze type colors, and yeah, I don't think there's anything else I really need to go into there. The question is, how well do the golds and silvers work? GW has had great ones. The golds maybe had a little bit to be desired, but compared to other ranges such as Reaper, GW's metallics were great. So here's an orc I did earlier that's got your lead Belcher on there. Let's try, let's just see what the steel looks like on there. Give that a shake. So that looks a lot like the old, not chainmail, looks like mithril silver actually. So where would our medium steel be? Or do we have one? I might be missing. Oh, I forgot it. Here we are. Iron breaker. So yeah, there's our middle. So this is like our old chainmail. So let's try. Let's just see what that looks like on there. And of course we're all lots of light here, so it's going to be hard to really tell. But yeah, it's a little bit of a lighter tinge to it. And there you can see right there, that's the color. And now let's try putting this along the edge. So, I mean, hard to really tell what they're like just by kind of trying to do something fast here. But they seem to be fine. I don't see any issue. The Reaper ones, you can tell right away that they kind of gum up on the brush and they don't like to flow. These seem to be fine. Like this tin bits kind of color. Let's paint that on and see what that looks like. That's our base. So let's, and that looks a lot like, that's basically the same. I can hardly tell the difference. I've done lots of tin bits stuff, so I think I can say with some sort of authority that that's the same color. So if you're used to that, then that's good. But let's see how the golds work. So I'm going to do this base here. So that's a nice deep gold. I'm going to do it along this top piece here. That seems to be a darker one than the old GW gold, and it seems to go on quite nicely straight from the bottle. And we're going to go with these two golds as our highlights. Probably should let this dry. Now when I open that up, I look and it looks like there's a little bit of a reddish tint to that, which is nice because that gives it a warm feel. So if you don't want that, well, I guess this isn't the gold for you, but I like that look. Kind of like the way I like the GW boltgun look compared to some other steels out there. Yeah, I should really wait till this is dry. Anyway, so there's that gold there. And that seems to be painting on quite nicely. And this is this Auric, I don't know how these are pronounced. That's going to kill me in these videos, I think. There's the, so what does that look like? So that's like your brazen, oh, which one was it? Burnished gold before, and that seems to paint on there quite nicely. And this, of course, isn't how I would paint my orc boys, but just trying to get an idea of how it goes on the model. And yeah, like that coverage there that's pretty typical. I wouldn't say there's any issue. Actually, that's probably pretty good for the light gold. And yeah, now what about these dry compounds? So I already showed you what it looks like on this black orc. So that was the Necron dry. Let's try out this golden griffin. I have to find another brush I can use for dry brushing. You gotta remember that dry brush needs to be absolutely dry. And of course I'm not using a proper dry brush, I'm just using standard brushes here. So let's get the paint off. And let's just give it a shot over here. So it's hard to tell. That one there actually looks a little bit silvery, but if you did it over top of gold, I'm sure that would be better. Or whatever, I guess it works. So golds and silvers, looks like they're decent. Looks like we have some options now. I'm not as concerned as I once was about the lead belcher. It seems to go on nicely, and it plays nice with the here it is here. This is lead belcher with the Devil in Mud, which is Agrax Earthshade, Agrax, something like that. And it looks about the same as Devil in Mud and boltgun, so there's no big challenge there. And the dry compounds, that's a really neat addition for things that are going to have lots of, where is it here? So that Necron dry, it looks like it's great. I mentioned that, where did I mention that? I mentioned that in the metallic, no, this is the metallic. I mentioned that in the dry compound video. So metallics seem to be okay. If anybody has any specific questions, I can try to answer those. I'd like to give these a shot, this copper kind of a look. It's very, very red. Yeah, the only difference I would say with Reaper is that they have a lot more other metallics. They have some bluish ones, and they have some scorched ones, some browns, but they don't have the same highlights that GW now has. So GW has kind of 3 main tracks of metallics, which are good. And I think that would cover most of the stuff you want to do. If you wanted to tint anything, you'd use your Runefang steel, well, I guess lead belcher, Ironbreaker, sorry. Where's lead belcher? There it is. Lead belcher, Ironbreaker, and either Necron compound or Runefang steel. And you could use your glazes to tint things. And I think they even show that in the book, which I will review next. I think that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about the metallics, leave them in the comments below.